We believe freedom is more than a feeling. It is the power to shape worlds, to craft beauty, and to live life on your own terms. And that freedom, that's where we begin. It all starts with a vision. Then we envision something even bigger. Because true ambition deserves to evolve into something even more extraordinary. Every vision becomes our purpose. A challenge that calls for collaboration between visionaries and engineers, between craftsmen and architects, between timeless expertise and bold innovation. For over 140 years, we have lived by one principle. Our best can always be better. We never settle, because only by aiming higher can we create something truly exceptional. A life without compromise. A world open to explore. Every moment defined by you. That is the ultimate expression of personal freedom.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to Yachting USA. Anders, it's nice to see you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Jurjen,
Thank you for being here.
thank you for having us in your home country. This beautiful Dutch weather, which we expect every November here.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. We'd be disappointed if we didn't have a little bit of this. And thank you very much to Met's Trade and the wonderful hospitality and the facilities you've provided us this year at the Met's 2025 exhibition. We're in the Rye Center and taking advantage of the opportunity to have this conversation in person. So, again, welcome. Ironically, Yachting USA, and about 60% of my guests are European, so I'm feeling right at home. So, you and I go back almost the same amount of time in our association with Huisman Shipyard, Roy Huisman. I remember meeting Walter Huisman right after Juliet was delivered, and I've got a beautiful coffee table book signed by Walter. Rick, best wishes in your career, Walter. What a gentleman he was.
Yeah, indeed.
And that was, what, 1992 or something like that?
Yeah, I think she was delivered in '94.
Okay, so that's
quite a long time ago.
Yeah, and then I was working on Arcadia. I think was one of the first motor yachts, and you were there at the time.
Yeah.
Wish I had met you at the time, but it's fun to be in the same place and have a little bit of history with such an amazing shipyard with such a legacy and heritage. And the fact that she's a royal Huisman means she's been over 100 years and is recognized for her excellence.
And well behavior as well. We received a royal warrant in '94 at our 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
And last year we celebrated 140 years of Roy Huisman.
Think about that.
Yeah, it's quite a history. A lot of boats have been delivered, hundreds.
Yes.
We don't even have a record of the early days, so we don't need to know.
Oh, really?
No, we don't know the precise number, but
now that's
there are a lot.
interesting.
Yeah, started with local boat for local fishermen, the wooden boats.
Right, in Vollenhoven.
Yeah,
Right.
Which
is a cool little Dutch town if you've never been. It is just, it's like picturesque. It's right out of the storybook almost.
Yeah, that's the former shore side of the Zuiderzee, the inland sea. Now we're looking at the reclaimed land, so the sea is gone, and that was also the reason why we stepped into yachting, because the fishermen didn't have a job anymore when the Afsluitdijk was built.
Yeah. And if you ever go to the town, they have a nice pictorial of what it was and what it is, which is really interesting to see, how the Dutch are really well at reclaiming land and managing your irrigation and water, because it's a water-bound, country below sea level mostly. So crazy to think about that, right?
Yeah, that knowledge is also being exported to the States and all over the world.
It's true. It's true. There's a hospital in Tampa right across from at an exhibition center last year. There's a hurricane came through, and it was Dutch technology that put up a barrier wall all the way around that hospital to protect it from the rising tides from that storm. I thought it was remarkable, and that actually came from Rotterdam. So, yeah.
And aside of that, water management, we also have a nice reputation of building boats. So
let's talk about building boats, because that is exactly why we're here, and that's been my love for my entire career. And I'm when we walked and talked earlier today, you probably sensed the passion I have about the history together and some of the boats that I was involved in building while I was with nautical structures. But now we're talking about the bigger picture, which is we've got this heritage of boat building. There's some amazing technology you guys use. You are also in something that's near and dear to me, which is active high-end refit work, and you've built your own facilities for refit. That's a conversation that's continuing to go on, and as we talk a little bit more this afternoon, you'll understand why it's kind of important to me as well. So, Royal Huisman Shipyard and Huisfit. Huisfit is the refit entity of Royal Huisman Shipyard. Huisfit, you have your yard in Amsterdam, and the new build work happens in Vollenhoven.
Correct.
Okay, so we got that kind of understood. Anders, you live in Mallorca, and you're from Sweden?
I am.
All right.
Swedish, I'm a Scandi hooligan.
Yeah. and you're working with this amazing Dutch entity, and must be really pleasing for you to have that ability to be integrated to all of that.
Yeah. I'm amazed by the company's history, the commitment to quality, and the dynamics of the company. I really enjoy that there's a new build, there's refit, and then there's Rondal, which is the equipment manufacturing, and an amazing research and development. It's amazing.
It is incredible.
So I'm very pleased to be with the company.
Yeah, I can imagine so. If I had the opportunity to reinvent myself and start my career on this side of the pond, it's probably where I'd want to be as well.
We still have some open jobs, so...
Careful. Yeah, no, it's good stuff. And what an industry we're in, because this is absolutely a luxury industry. And I've always enjoyed that conversation about what luxury really is. And until you see, I think, some of the detail of the builds that happen here in Northern Europe, you don't really understand. And luxury is more than just the visual. It is the attention to detail. It's the reliability. It's the components and how things are put together and how they're documented. And all of that either defines a very, very well-built boat or an exercise in mediocrity. And that's really one or the other.
Correct.
And you guys do not do mediocrity very well. Sorry to say.
That's why we also love to invite clients to come over to the shipyard and see how the boats are being built. Instead of having a look at a boat, a tour on a boat in the show, the sofa can look nice, the outer shell can look nice, but it's what makes a difference.
Yeah. At these boat shows, they won't let you take down the headliners or pull the wall paneling off. And that's unfortunate, because the magic is up above the headliners in the hull sides and in places you don't see.
Earlier we reviewed the air conditioning ducting, for example, of Atlantide. It's all made in PVC, and it's hidden behind the walls. But
this is, we were looking at this refit you did recently, and this is a 90-year-old yacht built in the UK that came in. And what was remarkable when we went through this book, and we'll show some of these images in this podcast for those watching this on YouTube. The attention to detail, what you saw in the works when you took this boat down to bare metal and then took it from bare metal back up. You took the chunk of the side of the yacht out so you pull the engines out, rebuild those back to new, put them back in. Incredible amount of workmanship that goes into that. And you essentially delivered a new yacht at the end of that refit.
Yeah, that's very close to a new build project. Although you don't start from zero, you start from minus.
Yeah. There's so many refits I've been involved in too, and you look at the project and you go, why didn't we just lay a keel? Wouldn't it have been easier just to start fresh? But there's love. This is an industry of love and passion. You have a boat, and you have it because you love it, because you certainly don't have it for economic reasons. You don't have it because it's an asset that's going to return a huge investment necessarily. You're going to have it because it's something that speaks to your heart.
Yeah, it's a passion.
It is passion, yeah. And so when you see the work that's done, you see the passion in the work as well. Jurjen, let's go back, if you don't mind, a little bit to new build construction. What have you observed over the last, say, 30 years in the shipyard, from the day Arcadia was built to where we are today? A lot has changed, obviously. Is there anything profoundly that you think back and go, wow, this is really fundamentally interesting, that is either uniquely Huisman or uniquely a move in our industry as far as, you know, how boats are built and the technology that we're delivering to our client today?
Of course, the boats, milestones there are always new milestones, and the boats have grown and grown and grown. Nowadays, at the moment, we're building 2 80-meter plus boats in Vollenhoven.
These are sailing yachts?
Both sailing yachts, yes.
Wow.
3-master as well as a sloop.
Wow.
They're huge. But what has changed is the sustainability part. Earlier we were talking about Juliet. She was converted into hybrid based on the hybrid technology we applied in a new build yacht called Ethereal. She was the world's first hybrid superyacht.
Wow.
Delivered a few years later when the Toyota Prius, for example, was just on the market. That owner wanted a super yacht with that new technology in his boat
That he has in the car.
Save energy, and which he has in his car, and which he's investing in new technologies. But it wasn't available on the market, so it was quite a challenge. And
Well, you just touched on something I think is important, because people that don't know sometimes look at large yacht construction and big yachts and they go, wow, what a waste, there's a lot of disparagement, and it's typically from ignorance. And I tell people, well, look at yachts and you understand the economic engine they represent, how many jobs they create, even after they're delivered, how many jobs are created and how much revenue happens every time they come to a dock and move from port to port. But the other piece oftentimes is overlooked is that new technologies, they don't start on your 10, 15, 20, 30-meter boats. You can't afford to. It is a high net worth owner that comes in and says, I see this technology, I see this need, I want it, I'll help. I'll pay a premium for that, or I'll collaborate with the yard, I'll fund the yard to get what I want. And from that, these technologies go into these boats, they evolve, they develop, and then deliver, and from that you can then scale them to smaller boats or production or whatever that looks like. And that's kind of what I think I heard you say.
Yeah, indeed, for the new builds, but also for the refits. The Juliet we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's a 30-year-old boat, but we converted her by Huisfit a few years ago and took all the machinery out. The shaft line was maintained, and a hybrid propulsion system was reinstalled with batteries, so the owner can do peak shaving, can enter zero emission zones, leave the marina without any diesel engine running. It has a lot of extra comfort, but also flexibility for the captain and the owner. So it's a big benefit. And we did the same with Fofta, another 30-year-old Huisman boat. And as far as I know, there's no other super yachts refitted in that way.
There's a risk component in going into new technology, and a lot of shipyards are
risk averse.
Risk averse, too careful to go into new territory.
Right.
And I think that's where the technical expertise and the courage of Royal Huisman has led the way from many others.
Right. I would agree with that. And it's interesting, too, because you guys are best known for your sailing yachts. And so when you think about zero-emission boats and green technology, and you're definitely not greenwashing with what you're doing in the concept that sailing yachts historically have always been eco-friendly. I mean,
take advantage of the wind.
You take advantage of the wind, and it's only been in the last 50 years or so that it made sense to start throwing in bow thrusters in engines and other things that actually require hydrocarbon engines and things like that. also, when you think about battery power, the one thing I claim to not to know, I don't know what I don't know sometimes with sailing yacht technology, but I do know that these boats need to have their center of mass low. And so I would imagine there's an opportunity to move some of the keel ballast out and replace it with batteries, where you have that ability to put that heavy weight in the strategic places of the vessel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, coming back to Ethereal, so she was built 20 years ago, launched 20 years ago almost.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
And she came back to our yard not long ago, and we replaced the whole hybrid system because development of equipment has been so fast.
Yes.
That now that makes sense. And the weight of those batteries that you mentioned is the same, but because of the volume having decreased, the batteries are much smaller, but with the same energy density, now you can have a lot more capacity.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you can run longer periods of time or support the house load at anchor and not have to run the generator and all of those things.
Yeah. It's a lot of comfort added.
Yeah. So here's I think a common thread I'm picking up on here too. You're delivering boats 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and they're coming back, and you're not necessarily having to bring up the canal to Vollenhoven anymore because you've got a shipyard, an amazing shipyard in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And my first introduction to that shipyard in Amsterdam was a refit that I was trying to get done in the States, working with a mutual client, Matt Voorhees. Matt, wonderful guy, wonderful owner and client and a big supporter of our industry. It was a Fed ship, and I finally heard that, no, we're not going to do it here, Rick. We're going to take it to Holland. I'm going, of course, Fed ship gets another refit. No. Huisfit got this refit. And it was a cool refit.
Yeah.
You did a major surgery on that boat.
Yeah, it started with the classic Fed ship looks,
Yeah.
with a curved stern, and we converted her and lengthened her by 4 meters, and there's now a modern exterior and a modern interior, because it was also a very, I think it was a John Munford interior, and it's now also Adam Voorhees interior, which is very contemporary. So it's a fine example of a conversion.
And I think one of the things that was achieved in that refit was what many yacht owners now look for. So you may have a beautiful classic canoe stern or a round stern like this vessel, but then you don't have the access to the water.
That's right.
That's what you want. You're on a boat, you want to be in the sea.
That's right.
So beach clubs is a very common theme in discussions we're having.
Yep, of course it is.
And that's what he got.
Well, that's the idea, because we have done a good job, I think, in yacht design over the last several decades of rethinking of the way these boats are used.
Yeah.
You gentlemen boats were typically used to take you from point A to point B, tied up at dock, go do your thing, come back. Now boats are family boats. They're used for more adventure. They're brought out to places anchored, multiple tenders and toys, and your beach club opens up, and it becomes a more integrated interface with the ocean itself.
Yeah, it's an in-out space.
That's a good way to put it. It's an in-out space, right? So these boats are getting second lives, or sometimes third lives.
Yeah.
And in the concept of Atlantide, this 90-year-old boat, what I saw you guys do, she's got another 100 years ahead of her.
Yeah.
You got a brand new boat going back in the water with an amazing steel hull.
Exactly, and that's actually an important aspect of refit. Today's yachting industry is wrestling a bit with the sustainability issue. And refitting a vessel is sustainable because you actually enlarge the life of that vessel.
You're doing that, and you're using 70% of the existing material resources that are already there. Instead of scrapping it or turning it into an artificial reef, you're turning it back into its intended purpose. Yeah. Which is as sustainable as it gets. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so I think that's conversations that really are important and fundamental to people understanding why the refit industry is as big as it is, and it's growing. in the context, and we'll go back to Yachting USA, and as an American yacht guy, I've been watching our industry shrink. And I think it's incredibly ironic because if you look at the statistics of yacht building worldwide, the fleet is growing. Right now, the numbers that I'm aware of, there's just over 600 yachts, 35 meters or larger, in construction right now. There's another 200 or so that are in contract moving into construction. Of course, as they come in, the fleet that's in construction starts being delivered. So there's a number of around plus or minus 800 boats, 35 meters larger, that are moving into our infrastructure, into our fleet. And there's a lot of these 80, 90, 100, 120, 130 meter yachts, big boats, that we weren't seeing 10, 15, 20 years ago. All of these boats will need special surveys and service and refit. And while we've seen our yacht building culture, the number of shipyards in North America decrease that could build these boats, dominant number of these boats are owned by Americans. And what we're now trying to figure out is how do we compete with Europe to keep the boats in the States for the refit work. And this is the part that needs to be paid attention to, because you have put amazing investments in Amsterdam and your facilities, as has Van Lent Shipyard. Speaking to the new CEO of Huisman Yachts, they're looking at synergetic relationships to bring their boats back to Europe to do the refit and the service work. Damon does the same thing with their boats. So I think I applaud and congratulate the European, particularly the Dutch, culture and industry for investment. I think that is so critically important. And then I challenge the U.S. market to say, pay attention to what's happening here in the Netherlands, because it's what we're not doing in the States. We're not making the investments into these yards where we can keep these high net worth individuals. So, to speak to that, you guys have certainly looked to the future.
Yeah, we take advantage of the owners bringing the boats up to Scandinavia for a British cruise in the northern cruising grounds, or into Scotland, which can be pretty and more quiet than the Mediterranean, and bring the boat on the way up, or when they return to the south,
right,
for a stay in Amsterdam.
Right. You've helped facilitate new cruising destinations, and it's interesting because historically the Med was the place everybody would go to. And yet, that's the same old, and it's
and too crowded.
And the infrastructure resources have been, depleted a little bit. And then you mentioned it earlier. There's places in Norway, for instance, beautiful fjords you can go into as long as you have zero emissions.
We can offer.
Yeah. And of course, you go up to the northern part of the UK and Scotland and those areas up there, and just remarkable opportunities.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think you're right. There is a vision into the future and the heritage of 140 years. And Amsterdam, thanks to the history of Amsterdam, has been a shipbuilding site for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yes, it has.
So where we have our Refit shipyard located is in the middle of the nautical cluster. There's suppliers, there's manufacturers, there's
your supply chain, your infrastructure is established
nearby.
here, and it's mature, and you also have a workforce that you encourage, you facilitate. The apprenticeship programs that are in place, the education is wonderful. The way you can direct young people into the trades if they're not going to go to uni. So I think there's we all have a lot that we can learn from each other, and what you guys have put together here in Northern Europe, I think, is commendable. It really is.
And as a shipyard as Huisfit, we also have the synergy with the new build facilities, the workforce over there, as well as Rondal providing components. So that's also helping. And the crew love to stay here because it's 50 minutes from Amsterdam city center, and for owners also convenient, close to Schiphol Airport.
Yeah, I know, it's in and out easy and all that. So Jurjen, talk to us a little bit about what Huisman is going to be delivering in the years to come. You got a couple big boats in build. I know that there's limits of what you can say. There's confidential issues, but what can you tell us about some of the builds you're doing now? And is there anything in these builds that is going to show up in future technologies or be unique for Huisman?
Yeah. Indeed, I'd love to tell a lot more
than you can. I'm sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not allowed. So time will show you, and keep an eye on our social media to see when the boats are being launched and revealed. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Keep us all anticipating and looking forward to what's coming in the future. If some of the things I've seen in the Rondal booth and some of the other conversations we've had are indication of what might be coming, I think you guys are going to build a reputation as being a very cutting-edge leader in new yacht construction and technologies.
Mm-hmm. It's our innovations have been always the backbone of the shipyard's success, and many innovations have been copied and applied by elsewhere too. But it's a compliment, I guess.
Well, it's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep on doing that.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to stay close. Maybe I'll have an opportunity to kind of break some new news in the near future and talk about what you're doing when it becomes available for the general consumption. But it is, I can just tell you from my 30 plus years working with the shipyard, there's nothing mediocre that comes out of that yard. It's all exceptional, and you have a lot of things to be proud of is what you do. It's a compliment to what you do. You should be, absolutely.
And while remaining humble.
well, yeah, we all try to do that. You know, there's the gratitude we have, of course, is we get to do this. Yeah. You know, we're in an industry, a profession that gives us that opportunity to use our human creativity to be able to work with a high net worth individual and let them tell us what their vision is. Can we do this? Is it possible? What will it take? And then when the answer is yes, magic happens.
Yeah, no, and as an industry, it's amazing. I think you might have seen as well in the one of the last talks in the Superyacht Forum. They estimate that the yearly turnover of the yachting industry is about 52 billion euros.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money and a lot of food on a lot of people's.
You know, when yes, exactly. When you think about the world economics and some of the challenges that exist, and then you see the impact. Keep in mind that the jobs that are created in our profession, our industry, these are not what we call in the States minimum wage jobs. These are not minimalist. These are careers. These are living wages. These are opportunities to eventually start your own businesses. And you know, I have never seen more innovation and more entrepreneurial experiences when you walk the halls of Metstrade and you see these new companies and new companies. I was amazed at how many new businesses I've seen and they're bringing out amazing products. You know, new ideas, things that I wish I could have thought of, right? And that's what this drives. This boat building industry drives the innovation and drives the creativity and creates the opportunity for people to start their own businesses and scale. And if they have a good idea, they're successful. And if it's not such a good idea, well, maybe they're not. But the opportunity exists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's continue with the history, adding years to the history of the shipyard.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, this is going to be fun. And again, the fun part of what I'm doing today is these conversations continue, and we'll be talking again in the months and years to come. And I am just excited to see what you'll be delivering in the future. And perhaps one of these days I'll get back to Vollenhoven myself and
You're
see
welcome
what's.
to come and have a look.
I would love to,
Yeah.
but of course I'd be going out the door going, damn, I'd love to talk about this.
A few years later, they will be launched.
No, that's great.
So
But-
we'll be able
then we
to.
can.
yeah, boom. Well, yeah, maybe that's the magic. Come to one of these next launches and do a little documentation there and a couple conversations and have a beer or two with you guys.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you.
pleasure.
Yeah, that'd be great. Listen, I appreciate you joining the podcast. It's wonderful to have Royal Huisman Shipyard and Huisfit on Yachting USA. You're amongst friends, and I just am very, very much grateful that we've found the time to do this today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
All right,
It's been great.
Anders, thank you so much. Jurjen,
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And until the next time, I'm out of here.